Hello and welcome to the Marin Women's Hall of Fame. I'm your host, Karen Anderson. For more than 20 years, the Marin Women's Hall of Fame has identified and honored more than 100 outstanding women of Marin County. These women have made contributions not only locally, but nationally and even internationally. We interview one of those honorees each week, and we're also going to be telling you many of the events that are coming up that you can participate in. Our Dine, Dialogue, and Develop series, where you can actually have dialogue and interface with one of our honorees and get to meet some fascinating women of Marin County, our mentoring program, our Savvy Senior program, and you can go to our website and find out much more information about all those also. Today we are speaking with Catherine Munson. Catherine is the 2010 honoree in the category of business. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
This is great. I just love your energy. And when we were talking, you talked about the whole idea of wonderment. And I'm looking at that montage that we saw at the beginning, and I could see the excitement, and the versatility, and the wonderful breadth of experience that you've had in your lifetime. And it's very inspiring.
I've been grateful to have the energy and excitement that I do have. It helps to do things.
It does, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Well, I'd like to start with that little girl that was sitting there on that car way in the beginning of that montage. You're a Midwestern girl.
Correct. That was taken in Albion, Nebraska. I was born in 1928, and those were the cars we had at that time. And I was born in Omaha. I grew up in small towns in the center of Nebraska, and ultimately went to the University of Nebraska for both undergraduate and graduate degrees.
And people might be surprised at what your degree is in.
I have 2 degrees each in microbiology and biochemistry.
Which of course has served you well in real estate.
Well, you would think it was. The strange thing is, it has served me well. Because when you study basic research, you understand the value of a broad scope of thinking and of investigation. You don't take things at surface value, I was surprised to find that it served me very well.
Yeah, I really can understand that, because it's the process of learning, isn't it?
It is.
A lot of it is the process of learning. And I know that we're going to talk about some of your business accomplishments, but I think what is also important about you is your strong commitment to children and to families. And I know that you have children of your own, and one of your first projects here in Marin County had to do with a play program.
That's right.
What was the name of the program?
It was and still is the name. It's Pixie Place at the Marin Art and Garden Center in Ross. It's a preschool playground.
Okay, and tell us what you did. Now, you probably were involved in the 50s, is that right?
It would be in around 55 and 6 and 7.
So tell us what happened. Of all the things you could have gotten involved with, why did you get involved with that?
Well, I had a baby and I was pregnant with the second one, and there were at that time no preschool playgrounds in Marin County. But I knew about some in Palo Alto. So someone told me that there was a very fledgling preschool playground at the Art and Garden Center. I went over to see it, and it was on a lovely piece of property, but really wasn't developed. I knew that the architect who had designed the ones that I'd seen in Palo Alto was Bob Royston of Royston, Hanamoto, Beck, and Abbey in Mill Valley. I didn't know him, but I talked with a few friends of mine who were very interested in also promoting the concept of building a preschool playground. I contacted Bob Royston, who was the essence of graciousness. He was excited, and he said, "I'd be delighted to design the whole project for you pro bono."
Phenomenal.
And he was only internationally famous.
Only internationally.
So he designed a magnificent playground, which we then formed volunteer groups. We did hire a foreman, and we built Pixie Place in a period of about a year.
That's phenomenal. Well, that wasn't your first, that was your first kind of, what should I say, dalliance with architects, right?
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
So that led to getting involved with the Eichler homes.
Well, I got involved because we bought an Eichler home. And frankly, we thought it was different and interesting. I don't feel at the time we were passionate about it. We were intrigued, it might be a better word. It was a very new concept architecturally, even at that time to anyone, but it was certainly new to us, having just come here from the Middle West. However, in very short order, a few months, we fell in love with the house as we began to realize what it really embodied and what the architectural concepts were. And in due course, I went to work for the Eichler Corporation at the subdivision in Terra Linda where we lived.
When I just give people now, most people in Marin, I think, do know what an Eichler home is, but what makes an Eichler home different and distinctive?
Eichler homes are based on a particular set of architectural principles. They're post and beam homes. That is to say, they're built of a series of posts which are vertical, on top of which rest beams, which hold the rest of the house up. The result is you have a house that appears to be a bit floating, and it's a very open house, and it permits floor-to-ceiling glass walls. It's also another characteristic is that it's slab on grade. What that means is that the bottom of the house, the floor of the house, is maybe a half an inch higher than the land surrounding the house. There are literally no steps, no grade changes.
That's
and
amazing.
It's amazing, and of course, it's very spoiling.
Yeah.
Also, in the concrete floor is embedded copper tubing, which makes radiant heating. So in the cooler months of the year, that floor is warm, and it's heaven.
Now, you still live in an Eichler home,
I certainly
right?
do.
Now, you got into actually selling them? And,
I did.
And that was kind of the launch of that real estate part of your career.
That's right. After selling Eichler homes for about 9 years, I then formed my own company, which to this day, though it's a very broad real estate firm, we do residential of all kinds, commercial of all kinds, and I've been a developer of a number of projects in Marin and elsewhere. Eichler Homes still have a very big passion in my heart.
They're amazing. They're so distinctive. You always know when you're in an Eichler.
That's right.
Always know when you're an Eichler. Well, tell us a little bit about these other projects, because you were a real pioneer as a woman in that kind of development.
That's true. It was very much in part because Mr. Eichler gave me very free rein. I ran a number of subdivisions for him during the 9 years that I was specifically working directly for him, and they were in areas from Marin County through Burlingame to Foster City, even over to Walnut Creek. And I learned how to build these kinds of houses. I had no background in that, but I became, again, very intrigued with the whole concept. It was a genius way to put a house together, I thought, and I still think so. And Frank Lloyd Wright was the consulting architect who directed 5 different architects who actually created the 85 floor plans of which Eichler Homes have been built in all of these places. But the concept of the construction never changed, but the architects greatly changed how the houses were configured, how they were used. And the variety was stunning, and we could hardly wait for the next year's additions to come out.
It's like it used to be with automobiles, probably.
Exactly. But then the beauty of it was that to this very day, they are the most contemporary, the most modern houses. Anything that has been built since is not at all as modern.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, you developed Pacheco Valley.
Yes, I did.
And tell us a little bit about those projects and what you, how you conceived them, and how, just the process of getting those done, because those are big projects.
Well, they are big projects. With the background that I had in Eichler Homes, this gave me a springboard to go forward. In 1966, we suffered a dramatic real estate recession, surely as severe as the one that we have just passed through. And following that, a number of subdivisions all over the Bay Area went bankrupt. Builders like Boise Cascade, not Eichler builders at all, came to me to see if I could help them conceive of a way to complete their subdivision. Many of their homes were half-built, and to market them and get them off their books. So that began the need for me to form my own company, which I did, and I have a group of agents, not the original ones, but I have a wonderful group of agents who have been in our company for a very long time. And they are all knowledgeable about these things we're talking about. So we completed and operated subdivisions all the way from Western Oaks in Novato to Brookside in Napa. Amazing. And the very largest one we did was over in Benicia, Southampton. Southampton is really the big part of Benicia now, but it was a state of disaster when we were asked to come and bail it out. And it was a very challenging project on a gorgeous piece of property. We gradually put it back together, redesigned it, got new architects to come and help us, and it was a very gratifying experience to get vitality back into the community. You can imagine the existing homeowners were very gratified as well.
Yes.
Nothing is more frightening to a homeowner than to find they suddenly live in a deserted area.
And now you continue working in the real estate field. You also have an interest in McGinnis, which is a wonderful area. I know the golf course and the restaurant there, which of course is always wonderful. So you keep doing new things.
Well, yes, I do. It's a disease from which I do not wish to recover.
Well, that's good. I hope they never find medicine for it, because you make great contributions through that. At the same time, you have done so much work in the nonprofit sector. And of course, our honorees are not seen just for the kind of work they do and that they do good work, but also for the other work, that second, the avocation of really being involved in the community. And in particular, the Project Amigo, if you could just give us a little snapshot view of that, it would be wonderful, because I think that's an amazing project in Mexico.
Well, it amazes even us, those of us who have been working with Project Amigo. It started 24 years ago by a couple from Benbow, California, who still remain the on-site residential managers of the project. As often philanthropic projects are, they're started with no money, not really very much forethought. After the first 5 or 6 years, I had gotten involved in it when it was about 4 years old, had gone down to do a work week project, and was appalled and stunned at the poverty level in which the people lived. This project focuses on working with indigenous people. They're of Mexican Indian descent who live in mountains in the southern part of Mexico. Our particular group lives in southwest Mexico, about an hour and a half inland from Manzanillo, and up on the slopes of a mountain, which is an active volcano. Oh. It's a very beautiful area. It's subtropical. Yeah. And because it's up 4,000 feet, the heat is not so intense. So we love going there and working. Now it's like a second home to many of us who have been working on the project for many, many years. We have achieved a remarkable result with the children that we started working with, who never would have gone to school at all.
So you built the schools.
Yes.
And then you also provided, if I recall, computers and and many of these children didn't even speak Spanish.
So to our amazement, yeah. How would we know? We didn't speak Spanish either. They were speaking Quechuan, or a variety of Quechuan, which is a South American language that is native to all native people. As I understand it, there are 52 kinds of Quechuan and its derivatives. But when we finally realized that the children couldn't go to school, public school, because they didn't speak Spanish, we then built 2-room schools, hired bilingual teachers, bilingual in Quechuan and Spanish. And our schools had a kitchen and a bathroom, so we could feed the children nutritious food. They had a corn-based diet, which stunted their growth and their intellect because they were protein deprived. And gradually, we have gotten these children up through school, through the lower grades, through high school. And about 12 years ago, we developed a program for them to go to college, to the University of Colima. Now, you can imagine, this is a pyramid. We start with a large number of children. We cannot afford to keep all the children in our program, and of course, many of them can't or wouldn't like to anyway. But we have found remarkable scholars in this population, to the extent that now we have graduated a girl from medical school, including her internship, a 3-year residency in surgery, and she has a job with the state of Colima. We have graduated 3 law students, 2 boys and a girl. 1 boy and the girl have formed a law partnership. 1 boy has run for magistrate, which is sort of the equivalent of president of the Board of Supervisors. He was the commencement speaker for the University of Colima this year.
That's amazing. And you know, one of the things that I think is particularly valuable about this project is that they don't just kind of take and then go on and do their profession. You've actually put into the process a because it is a requirement that they pay some of that back. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it's interesting, and I think it has value here in the States as well. When our children are given the opportunity to go to the university, they sign a contract with us, which states, among other things, that they will spend 10 years after they graduate working in the area from which they have come, whether it's in their village or whether it's in a larger town in the state of Colima, which is the smallest state in Mexico.
And I would suspect that's particularly important for the medical student.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I'm sure
but literally
doctors,
for
yeah,
any of
for
them.
any of them, yes.
The teachers, the nurses, the technicians, every one of them is so desperately needed in their communities, and because of the great schism between the development of their communities and the modern world, they're particularly useful in bridging that gap and very skillful. And we have a wonderful public health nurse who goes to our project 3 months every year. She is from Humboldt County in California. And she is absolutely brilliant. She's bilingual, and she teaches life skills to all of our students so that the older students are taught to mentor the younger children, not only academically, but how to be nice to people, how to help people.
Yeah, social skills.
Social
too.
skills,
That's
how to be
right.
considerate, empathetic. It's not that they aren't naturally that way, but there's a different level of skill required when you're in, for instance, a university environment or when you're in a professional environment.
Exactly. And don't they also they pay something back too of their earnings?
They
Isn't
do.
that right?
They pay 3% of their earnings for the rest of their life. But for 10 years, they are obliged to stay in the general area.
That's just a phenomenal model. I love that model. Now, bringing it close to home, one of your pet projects I know is something very dear to your heart is the Buck Foundation.
Yes,
the Buck
it
Institute,
surely
pardon
is.
me. Tell us what your involvement is there and why is that so dear to your heart?
Well, I think it's dear to my heart, and I think it will be dear to everybody in the world's heart when they understand what's going on at the Buck. The Buck Institute for Age Research is the name of it. It's a part of the Marin Community Foundation, but we have specific money that was designated in Mrs. Buck's will to be utilized for the purpose of ameliorating and modifying the difficulties of aging. To encapsulate our research philosophy, we are interested in extending the healthy lifespan of human beings and condensing the period of morbidity or of illness prior to death. And amazing work has been happening at the Buck and all over the world, but the Buck is the only freestanding institution which is devoted solely to the study of aging in the whole world, and it is looked to as a center of excellence by all other universities and research entities, regardless of what country. We're speaking of Korea, Japan, China, England, any country that is concerned about this, and of course, every country is concerned because the whole world's population is aging. It's tilting the scales. In many countries, there are more people over 65 than there are under 15. This becomes a social and an economic problem of titanic proportions, to say nothing of a human problem. So we want to make things easier for people. We want to help people have a better quality of life. We want to help people in their older years be just as vigorous as they were in their younger years, and to be able to give back. We desperately need mentoring of young children. Young families need help. Our social structures aren't as they used to be. The results of the Buck work will be and already are incredibly helpful to humanity.
That's amazing. Is there a particular project that they're working on in terms of a specific disease right now that you think is of particular note?
We work on a variety of diseases of aging, and we're certainly achieving excellent results, particularly in the study of Alzheimer's, which we all know is a national and international huge problem. But in addition to that, a great thing has happened at the Buck. I happen to be chairman of the board of directors. We have spent 2.5 years on a search for a new CEO. And we announced the appointment yesterday. It is Dr. Brian Kennedy from the University of Washington. And he is a young man, he's only 43, but he's internationally known for his studies of what happens inside of a cell to make that cell begin to age. If we think about it, the process of aging begins at the moment of conception.
That's amazing. Well, that's going to be wonderful to see what's going to come out of that, and I know that I can understand why that's dear to your heart. I know you also work with the on the board of the Marin History Museum, and just all of your projects are so inspirational. What words of wisdom would you give to young women who are going into business now? What's kind of been your success model?
I am from the Middle West, and I think that breeds in one a kind of simplicity. I really mean that. It seems to me that we do well as human beings when we do things for which we have passion and excitement and interest. It's difficult to do well and to remain focused on an activity that doesn't bring you that kind of emotional reward. My advice to anyone, and certainly to young women, would be to find some passions. And we all surely have many more than one. And give them a try. Don't be afraid to try some of your passionate interests. Don't be afraid to pursue complexity for a time until you learn whether that is indeed a field that you want to pursue.
I like that, pursue complexity. That's an interesting way to approach that.
Well, it is, and I think without it, if we just have a superficial sticking the toe in the water, we'll really never know. I think you have to get into something for a while to learn whether, yes, you want to go ahead full speed, or whether this is something that really is not for you. And in our day and age, the myriad choices which are available give any young person or any middle-aged person or any old person no end of fabulous choices.
Yeah, that's amazing. So just briefly, how did you feel when you got the call? You have been honored by the Marin Women's Hall of Fame.
Well, I thought it was tremendous. I was at home, it was rather late at night, and I was a little startled to begin with. And then I got to thinking particularly about the mentoring aspect. And I was very fond of the idea and the concept. I just believe a lot in mentoring. I was fortunate to have many excellent mentors. And the mentoring we've done at Project Amigo has exemplified the value and benefits of mentoring. And so I thought immediately that, well, that's the part of the Marin Women's Hall of Fame that I would like to participate in.
That's fabulous. You are truly inspiring. You epitomize a change agent. I mean, you are someone who does have that kind of dedication that you talk about, and you're a fabulous example to us all. Thank you so much, Catherine. And we thank all of you for watching. Go to our website, www.marinwomenshallofFame.org, and you can learn about all of our honorees, about our gala dinner in March, and also about our monthly Dine, Dialogue, and Develop programs where you can get to meet some of our honorees and actually have interchange with them and meet some other fabulous women also. We thank you very much for being with us this week for the Marin Women's Hall of Fame.